Welcome back, everyone. So I've got another informational video here. This has to do with the hot water tank in your RV. Now I have a Suburban hot water tank unit. It's pretty typical of the majority of hot water tanks, and it has a 3/4 NPT fitting that is here. So we have a what's called an anode rod, and I believe this is the old one, by the way. This is made out of zinc, and it is quite frankly, it's pretty well worn from here. This is the new aluminum rod, which is supposed to be the new anode for my tank, and that's going to go into the hot water tank, which is, it's located here on my RV. And as you can see here, there is the opening for it right there. That's where the anode slips in, and it's a trick to try to get it in there. I'll show you a little trick I do with a socket wrench for this particular thing. But what I typically do here, obviously there was some sediment in the threads, and I wasn't real happy about that. So what I did is, as you can see here, I have my hose. This kind of generic hose handle nozzle has a threaded fitting on the end, and what I typically do is I go in there, and it pretty much fits flush with it. Now, I'm not going to put the camera right here, but as you can see, I can pretty much shoot water into my tank by doing this. I need to flush it because there's sediment in there, there's pieces of the old anode, there's just other crud that's in there that's built up over time, sediment, minerals, you name it, what have you. You can see here there's some minerals there that have managed to come out. So I usually put this in for like 10 to 15 seconds. You know, I start to, the tank's got a decent capacity, but I try to angle it enough to let some air out, escape, while I'm doing this. And then what I do is I stop it, and then I pull it out, and I let it purge itself. As you can see here, what it's doing as it's draining out, it does a pretty good job. Where the anode is toward the bottom of the tank anyways, so there was a lot of sediment that came out and dripped out here. It's in the driveway right now, and some of it's in the bottom of the hot water tank area. I've done this purge probably a couple times already, so I would recommend 2 or 3 purges. You know, really fill the tank up pretty good with the water, and then let it drain out, and then you can get the new anode in. Now, the trick I'm talking about here with this is the fact this socket's fairly deep, so it's hard. As you can see here, it's a 27 millimeter. It's 1 1/8 is the head of this thing. It does play a little bit in here, but not enough to cause a problem for me. But what I do is I pack this either full of paper, or I do something so that way it keeps this sort of right near the edge of the socket. Because when I'm trying to put this thing in, what happens is it just slides all the way in, and then I can't seat the threads properly. That's the biggest pain, because there's so many things in the way. It just tilts one way, it tilts the other, and I just can't get it to seat correctly. So I'm going to take a wad of paper or whatever I can find here, and basically, well, there's some paper right there. I'm going to take some cardboard. Alright, take some cardboard, crumple it up, and fit it down into the, this is going to be a little bit too much cardboard, I guarantee. It's going to be a little too much. I'm going to put a couple layers in there, just to get it, just to pack it in. Something that I know I can get out of the socket. It's not going to interfere with the operation of the socket. And just, you know, layer it in there. Again, forgive the no tripod camera work, because again, just trying to do this after I get home from work during the day. And if I do this, I'm going to do one or two more pieces in there, crumple it up, stick it in there, wedge it in there pretty good, and then see how this anode fits. So now I can push it. It's got a little wiggle room. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this socket, before I do that, obviously, I'm going to put some thread sealer on it. I've got my RTV sealer. I don't know if it's going to work on this, but we're going to put it on. I know you could put plumber's tape. I put the sealer on like this, and it seems to work really well with stuff, so I'm going to just continue to use it. And I'm just going to get myself a bead or a lot of stuff on there that I can just wipe off. Just make sure I've got it on the threads continuously. Do this here. Oh, there's a gap. There you go. So I got it there. Like I said, I use my Ultimate Gray RTV silicone. There we go. You can see it now without the sun. There you go. That's what I use on a lot of stuff. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to try to feed this in first by sticking it in. Again, trying to get my fingers. I didn't get my fingers off of it. So I got my fingers all full of that stuff. Isn't that great? Wonderful. Just love getting my fingers full of this stuff, trying to put it in. Now, because of the anode, it's going to be really tough to seat this thing in the way it should be seated in, and without getting your fingers full of all this wonderful silicone. Lovely. Don't pay attention. I'm going to just wipe it off behind the driver's seat because it's got water on my hands, so the silicone should come off. I'm going to take my socket and I'm going to attempt. It appears to be seating it, which is a good thing. So, again, I'm going to just... Okay, well, I had the batteries die on me. I really hope that this video worked out. I did manage to get the, again, because I had the paper, I managed to get this thing seated correctly and install it nice and firmly in here, as you can see, and just kind of rub the silicone around there, so that's all good. And I got it all over my hands, but that'll come off because, again, I've got them wetted by the water here, so the silicone at this point will come off and be able to take care of that. So that's how I replaced my anode for the hot water tank in my RV, especially after pulling the old one out and seeing this craziness right here. Look at that. That thing was totally corroded. Could have broke off inside the hot water tank, which would have been really fun to try to get out, I'm sure. So it's good to check these every year and just make sure, depending on your amount of usage, that it's cheap enough. It's like 10 bucks. I mean, really, for $10, are you going to risk having to really screw around with trying to pull an old anode out of your hot water tank? I'm thinking probably not. So there you go. So that's how you replace the anode in your Suburban hot water tank. Thanks for watching. Take care and safe RVing.